Hello and welcome to this edition of Stateside. I'm your host, State Representative Bob Koczera, representing the town of Acushnet and the north end of New Bedford, parts of Ward 1, parts of Ward 3, and all of Ward 2. Stateside is a program to make you aware of state services and programs that are available possibly for your benefit. And on this edition of Stateside, I'm very pleased to have Jonathan Hughes from the Massachusetts Educational Finance Authority, affectionately known as MEFA. And without saying anything further, first of all, I'm going to say, Jonathan, welcome to Stateside, and please give us a little background about MEFA, what it does, how it was established, what its purpose is.
Great. I want to say first, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. MEFA is the Massachusetts Educational Financing Authority, as you said before, and it was established back in 1982 by the state legislature at the behest of colleges and universities in Massachusetts to help Massachusetts families to afford college. So we have a public service mission to keep college and higher education affordable and increase access for families in the Commonwealth, also for folks outside of the Commonwealth coming into the Commonwealth to pursue higher education.
In other words, someone that's living maybe in Rhode Island or even New Jersey, but they know they want to go to a school in Massachusetts,
absolutely,
they can take advantage of this agency.
Yes, absolutely. And if you're in Massachusetts and you're going out of state for college, if you're a Massachusetts family, you can take advantage of a MEFA loan. And first, what we were created to do when we were created in 1982 was simply to offer a loan. And we still offer that loan. It's called the MEFA loan, and we just had new rates for the upcoming year released, and they're lower, which is good.
That's very good.
Yeah. So if I can plug, if you want to go to MEFA.org to find information on that, please do so.
We'll try to put that MEFA.org underneath the screen as it's being broadcast.
That's perfect, yeah. So, but what you'll find if you go there also is that there's a lot of information, not just on loans, because what we've seen since we were created, as you know, as we were just talking about before we started rolling, a lot has changed in higher education, particularly in cost over the past 30 years or so. So simply offering a loan wasn't going to cut it at a certain point. And what we did was introduce two savings programs, the U Fund and the U Plan, which we can talk about a little bit later on if you like. Yeah. And also really started to increase our mission to help Massachusetts families plan for college as well as save and pay for college. So doing financial aid nights at high schools, reaching out to community leaders, having content on our website, tools that people, when they go to MEFA.org, can use. In fact, as I was saying, when you go there, you'll see three main sections: plan, save, and pay. And what we like to say is we help Massachusetts families plan, save, and pay for college.
Right. So with the idea that planning gives you an idea of what the expenses are, saving with the idea of putting things away before they make their selection of a college, and pay in terms of probably loans and giving financial assistance to parents that want to finance their children's education.
Absolutely. In fact, financing a higher education really is something that can and should be done throughout the entire life of a child. So whether or not you have a child who is just born, I have a 2-year-old, I'm saving every month in my U Fund for him, because I know, and if I wasn't working at MEFA, I probably would not be doing that, but I know how important it is to save for college.
We have two daughters, and when we started the U Plan, my daughter was already in high school, so I only had a few years because the program was new. But for the other one, I started simultaneously. And I was just putting a little bit away, and I found that I really needed to put a little bit more, but it did help. Both of them benefited from what we were able to save in the U Plan. Why don't I start by two comments. One is that hopefully this program is another example of outreach, so that people listening and that have family members who are going to have children attending college might want to say, hey, we want to go to the website and find out about MEFA and what it has to offer. A lot of questions can be answered well ahead of a student that is going to go to college but might not even be in high school. The other point that I wanted to make is that a lot of times you read about the 529 plan, and that's the part that kind of like changed MEFA's mission, I believe, because they came out later. I wonder if you could just briefly, in a pedestrian sense, tell us what a 529 plan is, and then we can talk about U-Fund and U-Plan, I believe they are.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So the 529 plan is our U-Fund. And what a 529 plan is, it's the way I like to describe it is it's like a 401k, except for instead of retirement, it's for college. So you open an account, and I can say from personal experience, it's very easy to open an account. I started one first for my nephew, who was the first child born in our family in that generation. And I called up on a Saturday morning, 10 in the morning, talked to somebody at Fidelity who runs the U-Fund for us, and they manage the accounts and handle the investments. So as I say, I'm not an investment person. If you have questions about investment, talk to Fidelity. They can help you. And they helped me. So I called up 10 o'clock in the morning. 15 minutes later, I had a U-Fund. So it's very easy.
So basically, like you were the uncle, so you did it for your nephew, but a grandparent or an uncle and aunt that maybe doesn't have children or are in a position where they can help another family member could actually set a savings fund up for another family member.
They could, yes, for a U-Fund, yes. Or a U-Plan. They could do that. It gets a little tricky a little bit later on in terms of financial aid.
Right.
But that you can certainly do that. Or you can have the parent open one and then just gift money in. In fact, for the U-Fund, that's particularly easy because you can set up an online gifting page where relatives can go in and just gift money right in.
A lot of times, we didn't know what to get them. We didn't know what they like, so we're going to give you money and hopefully or put it away for college. So parents that are on top of the situation, even before they start school, could take that kind of an offering from a family member or a friend and actually put it into one of these accounts.
I have an aunt who, every time I see her, she gives me a $50 check for my son. It's my favorite thing, yes, because he's only 2. He doesn't, he's not going to miss another toy or whatever.
Exactly.
Just throw it right in the U-Fund. It's going to pay huge dividends. So basically, the money is invested by Fidelity. It grows in the market, tax-free, tax-deferred. And as long as when it comes time for the child to go to school, as long as you pull that money out and use it for a qualified educational expense, meaning tuition, fees, room and board, books, supplies, you don't pay taxes on it.
Which is a nice feature.
Yes.
You get more money, you get more bang for the buck. It stretches further.
Absolutely.
And in terms of opening up account, is there a nominal, minimal amount?
Yes, for the U-Fund, it's a $50 deposit or a $15 a month
commitment,
monthly, withdrawal agreement.
Okay. Now, we hear a lot about U-Plan and U-Fund. I believe with my children, we did the U-Plan because every year they would say, with your donation for this year, you qualify for so much for your tuition. So, the dollar amount might represent 10% of the freshman year tuition.
Right.
Would you explain for the listening audience in a little more detail what the U-Plan is and how that works?
I would love to. In fact, it's something I'm doing a lot lately because right now is the U-Plan open enrollment period.
Oh, I see.
So it's every May 1st through June 30th. So we're coming to the end of it, but we're usually able to extend it a little bit past that June 30th deadline. So if you think you're too late, you're not too late. But this is the U-Plan enrollment period, and basically the way it works, it requires a little more explaining up front than the U-Fund does, but it's a great program. When I said that Fidelity handles the U-Fund accounts for us, we do the U-Plan in-house. So I'm actually able to see when somebody calls up, they want to check on their U-Plan, I can see how much they got for the U-Plan and what benefit they really get from that. And I've seen a lot of people get a fantastic benefit from it. So what it is you put in a certain amount of money. $300 is the minimum for the U-Plan, so it's a higher minimum. But you put in a certain amount of money and you designate a student, an owner, and a maturity year or maturity years, so one or more of the years that the child is going to be in college for.
So in other words, if you, in the case of your 2-year-old child, if you open it up, you're the parent, you're the owner, your child, is it boy or girl?
It's a boy.
It's a boy. Is the owner, and 2 years at 18, 16 years from now, so you probably have something like 2032 or something that his
Yes,
freshman
as
year going
unbelievable as
into
that
college,
sounds, yeah.
and that becomes the year of eligibility. He has, in case of you, he or she has a 4-year period to go and take those funds out.
So I would pick either, if I wanted to save it all for the freshman year, I would say 2032, or if I wanted to, do more than one, I could do 2032, 3, 4, 5. And there is a $300 minimum per maturity year. So if you wanted to put some in for every year, it's $1,200. But basically, let's say the example I always use, because it's easy on the math, is, and I'm not good at math, so let's say you put in $1,000.
Right.
And you say, I want to put this for my son's freshman year in college.
Okay.
So that's going to buy 10% of tuition this year at a college that costs $10,000.
Right.
So let's say 16 years later, when he goes to school, tuition at that college is now $20,000. It's doubled. So I'll have 10% of $20,000 or $2,000 at that school. So as the tuition goes up, the value of your percentage goes up. This is good for...
And of course, the participants are hoping that they keep everything stable, but the thing is that it's a hedge on inflation. You're using today's dollars to pay for tomorrow's costs.
Exactly.
And it's extremely beneficial. There are member schools that qualify for this.
Yes.
And if I remember correct, it even includes like Bristol Community College, Massasoit Community College, Bridgewater State University, UMass Dartmouth, and a host of other schools within the state of Massachusetts.
Yep. I believe, well, there are over 75 colleges that are member colleges. They're all in Massachusetts. So the obvious question becomes then, what happens if a child doesn't go to one of those colleges in Massachusetts? Well, then you have 3 options. You can hold it for a while if you think that they might change their mind. If there's another child, maybe a year or 2 behind or a little bit further, you can transfer those certificates over to that child. Yep. And then the third option is you can cash out and get what you put in plus the interest back. So that's always an option.
And that's what we did with our 2. We had 2. The oldest girl only applied to one out-of-state school, and she said, I want to be close to home. So we thought for sure she'd be Massachusetts, and she'll benefit from the U plan, which indirectly she did. She ended up going to Providence College, so get the money back with interest and applied it towards her tuition. The youngest one wanted a very specific program in pharmacy, and she was accepted at a number of schools, including Mass College of Pharmacy and Northeastern, but she opted for URI. So again, the same thing happened. We couldn't apply the U Fund principle, but the money was used towards her tuition.
And you do get what, in the worst case scenario, you do get what you put in plus the interest back. So
it worked very nice, and my only regret was that I didn't put more in, in both cases. So, I'm a big proponent of people planning early and not saying that they're going to put money away, but actually doing it. And, $300 a year, or you commit, like you said, $15 a month or whatever it may be. And in the end, at least you have something to offer your child. Tuitions are rising, and it's a fact of life. So it's very important, and hopefully people listening to this program will go to that computer and go to MEFA. Now, the U plan is basically for participating colleges, and if they don't, they can take the money. What is the U Fund? Is that more stocks and bonds investment?
Yes, the U Fund is invested in the market. So, it will grow with the market, hopefully. There is an FDIC insured option to invest in for the U Fund, so it will safeguard the principal that you put. That is my one piece of financial knowledge on this, of investing knowledge. But if you talk to Fidelity, you can talk with them. They're open 24 hours. You can call them up. So if you're feeling, like you said, what's important is actually doing something and not just talking about it. If you're sort of gripped by a moment and you feel like, oh God, I got to do something, you can just call them up right then and start that plan. So, but they will be very helpful to guide you as to what sort of investments might be wise.
And if you go into the U Fund, basically what you're doing is you're giving your money to Fidelity, a recognized agent of MEFA, and they are investing it in the stock market, in the bonds, and hopefully you're going to get a return on that money with the same principle, being tax-free, so that you get more for that dollar of investment when the time comes to cash it in. Do you have the option, or do they do they have the option of saying what kind of investments you want to make, or do they take care of the whole thing?
Oh no, you can consult them definitely, and they have if you see the kit, they'll have a plethora of options that you can go.
So it's like a deferred compensation where you can say you want to go in international stocks, you can want to go in bonds, something moderate, something safe, something more. You can mix it up.
Yes,
I see. So that again, it and the only difference about this is that instead of saving a nest egg for yourself, you're really saving a nest egg for your child's college expenses or some relatives' college expenses. I was telling you earlier, when I was accepted at school, it was St. Michael's College, and at the end of 4 years, I would have been in debt in 1975 when I graduated, $12,500, and back in 75, you could practically buy a home for that amount of money. When my daughter was going to Providence College 20 some odd years later, the tuition for a single year was double that, was $25,000. So you can never start early enough, and it's important to do, just as it is to, if you have a mortgage and you own a home and you want to get ahead in paying the mortgage, it's important to at least put something away. I think a lot of parents end up having to take out loans, and when the student graduates, he or she will pay for it. But this is one way of kind of trimming the sails and making it easier.
And you bring up an interesting point that I think is important to talk about, which is one of the things that we say is, even if you can't save it all, very few people can save it all, but you shouldn't borrow it all.
Right.
You know, if you're not saving, you're really increasing the chances that you're going to be borrowing a lot of money. And you know, borrowing in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing to do. The fact is that most families will have to borrow something to get through 4 years of college. But you know, the problem becomes when people borrow more than they can afford to pay back, obviously, or borrow more than they need to borrow.
When you borrow, if you were to take a loan from MEFA, would that loan, some parents have children close in age, would that mean that the parent is assuming sole responsibility, or is the student as well? The
student is responsible as well, but the parent is also responsible, and that's one big thing that I think a lot of people come to this process and they don't know, because we talk in general about student loans in the country. You know, I thought, and you don't know how many times I've heard a parent say, "Well, I thought the student could just go and get a loan and repay it when they get back." The student can get federal loans on their own, but those, if you're going to be borrowing anything, we do recommend that you do start with those federal loans, because they really are the best loans,
deal.
For students. The problem is there's only so much you can get in those loans. $5,500 for freshmen, $6,500 for sophomore, and so on. So that often doesn't take care of the entire bill. So once you do get those loans, and those are built into your financial aid package. So let's say, you know, you're a family, you've applied to colleges, you've done your financial aid paperwork, you're going to get your acceptances and your financial aid award letters. Those student loans are going to be built in already, and you're going to be left with a bill on top of that in most cases. So it's at that point that people really start to look towards MEFA and towards other agencies or companies to get a loan out to come up with the rest of that balance. Any loan that you get at that point is going to be based on credit, which means that most students really are not able to get that without a co-applicant. And typically that means that parents are the co-applicants. Now there's a federal loan program called PLUS, which stands for Parent Loan for Undergraduate Student. And on that loan, the parent is the only borrower on it, so the student's not on that at all. For MEFA, the student is always responsible for the loan, but the parent, assuming the co-applicant is a parent, it doesn't have to be, so it could be an aunt, it could be a grandparent in the case of MEFA. They are equally responsible. So as I once heard somebody said, and it has a nice short ring to it, there's no such thing as just a co-applicant. If you're a co-applicant, you're just as responsible as the other people on the loan. So that is something to understand.
But one of the reasons why, like, MEFA would get involved, it would be to offer something that's maybe more affordable or a better deal for the parent and the student than going with a commercial loan. And I would assume that these loans would become payable upon the completion of the education or the ending of the education, and not while this student is still in school. But I don't know those levels of detail, so I just thought if you share it with us.
Absolutely, yes. We actually have all of those options available. So we actually have 5 different MEFA loan options. So 2 of those options are deferred loan options, meaning, and when you're looking, if you're a parent and you're looking at what loans to buy, one of the things that we do is sort of try to educate families on just what are the important things to look for when you're comparing loans. So one thing that might be important for you, are you able to defer the repayment while the student is in school? So is it, as you say, the payments don't start to become due until the student has left school? And we have 2 loans where that's the case. One of them is just a straight deferred loan. The other one carries the added bonus of possibly having the parent co-applicant removed after 48 consecutive on-time monthly payments have been made, and the student is creditworthy at that point. Maybe the co-applicant can come off the loan. That's the only option where we have that. The other options we have 3 options that the payments begin while the student is in school. And those are usually at a lower rate and end up costing less throughout the entire life of the loan. Aside from being at the lower rate, the reason for that is if a loan is in deferment, there's usually interest accruing on that while it's in deferment. And that's the case with almost every deferred loan except for the federal loans.
You hear a lot in Washington by some Congress people and senators that they like to see deferrals, or they like to see readjustments of interest rates on loans, because some of them have accumulated more readily.
Yes.
And so far it's been it's still a lot of tension, tug of war.
Yeah.
But quite frankly, in today's economy, you need to have higher education. You need to be a lifelong learner, whether you like the term or not.
Yes.
Just getting a degree isn't guaranteed success alone. They say that people will change their careers or change their place of employment multiple times in the course of their lifetime, whereas years ago, in New Bedford, you graduate from high school and go to work at a Cushionet company, or go to work at Moss Cutting Tools, and you would retire from there in your 60s.
Right.
40 years later. Titleist is still around, Moss is no longer around, and countless other companies. So the world has changed, and education is always there. There's more to learn, there's more to gain. When I went to college, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have computers. We had a typewriter and whiteout.
Right.
And people probably say that's the dark ages, that's old-fashioned. That's the reality.
Right.
And you can't stress the importance of the sciences, the health sciences, technology, people interested in computers. There's whole fields and majors of study there. We have about 5 minutes left, so I just thought maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the planning aspects of MEFA and how you reach out to parents, and at what level do you reach out, and what kind of things do you discuss?
Well, actually, the answer to that is anytime they want. We'll be happy to if we get a call from a workplace, we'll go to the workplace and talk to folks there about saving for their kids. They might have kids who are like me, I have a 2-year-old, or they might have kids who are in college now, or they might have recent graduates, and that's one of the things that we have just launched as a refinance program.
Oh, wow.
So if you have loans and you're struggling with your monthly payment on your student loans, you can refinance that and get a lower monthly payment. The planning aspect is really important. One of the things that I want to mention too, one of my favorite studies that I was talking about in terms of saving, if a child knows that, aside from any financial aid benefit you get from saving, if a child knows that money is being put away for him or her for college, there was a study from the University of Kansas that showed a child is I believe it's 4 times as likely to attend college and 3 times as likely to graduate.
There's an expectation that's being put on that child, so that if that child is going to say, well, whether I want to or not, I have to go to college. My parents expect me to do that.
Exactly.
And that's a good motivator.
Yes.
That's a good motivator, because that helps them in terms of setting goals and say, I want to be a success. I want my parents, I want my
Absolutely.
family to look favorably upon me.
And one of the things that we really try to stress, especially recently, is as you were saying, the importance of education and the importance of a college degree and why it's important. And also that, it doesn't necessarily mean a 4-year college. It doesn't mean a 4-year private college. There are community colleges that result in associate's degrees.
Yeah.
There's a lot of programs designed to help people get through either an associate's degree program or a bachelor's degree program or more with as little debt as possible. The benefits of education aren't just for the most expensive schools.
Right.
So there is a way to get through with little debt.
As a legislator, on a regular basis, you were invited to go to Bristol Community College, UMass Dartmouth, Bridgewater State, and get a report. And they say, this is what we're doing, and this is why we need the level of funding.
Yeah.
And when we went to the community college, they would always say, if a student comes for us for 2 years and then transfers, they save so much money as a freshman and as a sophomore at the community college than if they were attending the 4-year school, whether it's a public or private, especially
Yes.
if it's a private. So we would hear that. Now I'm hearing more openly, even from some of the 4-year schools, that we accept. And we would encourage students to go to the community college.
Yes.
Where the tuition and fees are lower, the credits will be accepted, and they can continue their education from there. So there's all kinds of strategies and all kinds of approaches that could be made available to parents and to relatives if they take the time to explore. So I hope that one of the benefits of your appearing on StateSide is that viewers will tell interested family members that, hey, why don't you look up MEFA, Massachusetts Educational Finance Authority, and look under the hood, see how you might begin to save for your students, your child's college education.
That would be great. If I could say one thing.
You can, because we have about 1 minute and 20 seconds, and it's all yours.
Oh, okay. I would say that I think the big mistake that people make is not yet. I understand that. Believe me, as I said a few times already, I have a 2-year-old, and the day is full.
You have the christenings and the baptisms and the birthday parties, and if you get money from there, a good thing would be to salt it away.
Yes.
Would be to put it someplace, even before they start school.
Exactly. And the important thing also is to think about the big picture and where you want your child to be at the end of their college career. So, I think if you don't get hung up on they have to go to this type of school or that school or bend to sort of societal pressures of
Even if you have a business and you want your child to work it, they have to know the accounting, or they should have a business background, a financial background, or a technical background that would benefit them.
Exactly. So just have a plan and know where you want your child to be, and there are routes for you to get there.
Jonathan, I want to thank you for coming to New Bedford today and being on the StateSide program. To the viewers, I hope that you found this segment of StateSide with Bob Koczera to be very interesting. I would encourage you to go to the website, look up MEFA, Mass Educational Finance Authority, and get started on helping your child, your family member attend college. Thank you.
Thank you very much.